Join us for another episode of Welcome Disruption. This time we're going to be talking with Evan Friedkin from Roobrik on how data and human behavior help drive decisions in senior living. Stay tuned for tons of insights. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm here with Evan, and he is going to share with us what is new and exciting at Roobrik.
Yeah, Adrienne, happy to be here. Hope everybody had a good holiday. Yeah, there's been a ton of updates, ton of changes on the Roobrik team. It feels like about 5 years ago I joined, and we had I think two assessments. Is it time to get help? Yeah. And a few others that were not used a whole lot. One for home care. And over the past several years, we've released 4 or 5 additional ones for different consumers that are at different stages in the decision-making process. And then I feel like we hit hyperdrive in Q4 last year, where we just put the product team to work on creating all kinds of new products. And so I've always said that when consumers are looking at senior living, there's really 2 questions that they're trying to answer. Do I need it, and can I afford it? We have mastered the art of helping consumers who are unwilling or basically don't want to talk to salespeople, who are trying to grapple with that question of, do I need it? And so we decided that we're going to release a new tool that helps them figure out whether or not they can afford it. And so it's not a cost calculator. We're not asking for assets or anything like that. We're really just trying to help them understand what are all the different ways that you can pay for care, while also getting them to understand what is kind of their current situation and whether or not senior living is a fit. Based on kind of how things are financially, all while helping the sales teams better understand and better qualify their leads from a financial standpoint.
Yes, I implemented Roobrik at one of my community, a life plan community, and the results have been incredible. Their benchmark, the benchmarks that you guys have shared, which is so helpful for agencies and for communities to know what they should be expecting, set those expectations. Our client friend's house is double beyond the top end of the border. They've got a really engaged audience, and everyone is sharing their information and opting in, which is so powerful for the sales team. It's not just that they have all that great data about the people who are inquiring on the website, which is their primary channel of, inquiry, but then on top of that, to have all that rich background and they've opted in, our sales team is just completely enabled to jump in and get started.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we've seen in the industry over the past several years, really, which is there's been this major shift towards the prioritization of digital leads. Mm-hmm. But the sales training hasn't caught up enough on how do we arm the salespeople to be ready to handle that influx and do it in a way that is meeting the consumers where they are. And a lot of that starts with the marketing teams, which is how do we get more data over to the sales teams? Mm-hmm. And how do we coach the sales teams on how to use that data? Mm-hmm. And so that's a huge opportunity that we've seen. And so that's something that we're going to be leaning into more, which is how do we really lean into sales enablement to help make the digital leads convert at higher rates, while making sure that the data we're gathering from all channels is really translating over to sales. And it's easy to read because sales love stories. They don't like looking at charts and looking at data. Then they've got to piece it all together. They'd rather have it told to them in a story. I'm guilty of this. I'm a sales guy at heart. And so you give me an Excel spreadsheet, I'm probably going to start sweating. But if you give me a good story, I'm going to love it. So how do we take the data and make it a story? And that's really what we're leaning into. Absolutely.
I saw a meme the other day on Marketing Millennials that had someone with the spreadsheet, and it says, "I don't think we're in Kansas anymore." From his Wizard of Oz, because as a marketer, you live and breathe that data. But as a salesperson, you need the story. You need the quick high level. Tell me what I need to know. Where's the pain point? I think that a lot of organizations would benefit from charting that buyer's journey. I just posted on LinkedIn just a 101 across all of the different, CCRCs, independent living, skilled nursing. What does that buying journey look like? And what do they need? You said sales enablement. I feel like I've spent a good part of the last year really focused on sitting down with sales teams and asking them, what do you need? What will advance this relationship for you? Is it a comparison tool, to your point about finances? Is it understanding all of the ancillary services that we offer? What is it that we need to do to clarify? You guys have done a phenomenal job at Roobrik of just identifying a gap and bridging it. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm curious when you ask that question.
Bridging the gap, you guys, seeing an opportunity and then capitalizing.
Yeah. So you had just said that you asked sales teams kind of what they need to make that easy. What are you hearing? I know what we're hearing, and that tends to be, give me more than a name, email, phone number. And they're referencing digital leads.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Enriching that data is step one. Absolutely. Okay. I actually was on a call yesterday with Align, and we were talking about how Enquire used to data append automatically all of your incoming leads. That is something that we do for our clients on an annual or semi-annual basis, is do that data append to get a really clear picture. So we build predictive analytic profiles, which I've found to be super, super helpful. It tells us the demographic and psychographics of our audience, and it also helps us understand what they need from the sale, right? So for someone who is searching for a spouse, they're going to have a completely different sales journey and need completely different things from the salesperson. A lot more voice to voice, a lot more home visits, versus a busy adult daughter who's going to need a lot more digital communication. And I don't mean to, over exaggerate how different people are, but truly there is some significant communication preference channels that are not as effective with certain older adults as it is with others. And so finding the right message and putting it in the right format, to your point, Evan, is I need a script, but I also need an email, and leveraging those pieces together.
And what I totally get is salespeople are busy. They get a lot of digital leads. They get a lot of referral leads. Obviously, they're going to prioritize the referral leads because conversion rates are so much higher. But at the end of the day, you can't build and fill occupancy on just referral leads because the volume's a lot lower. And so you have to backfill with the digital. And so they're busy. They get a lot of these leads. Not all leads are created equal, but all leads should be treated equal, to the sense that they're all families. They're all families going through one of the hardest decisions of their life. And it's very easy for a busy salesperson to deprioritize or not focus as much on the digital lead that comes in. And so the more data we get them, sometimes they just take the approach of, I have a list of 100 people I need to call today. I'm just going to sit down and grab my cup of coffee, and I'm going to plow through this list and dial for dollars.
Dial for dollars.
Unfortunately, typically we're finding about 2% of the digital leads end up converting. And so one of the things that I've been really, really interested in, and it sounds like you're doing this, is if only 2% of the digital leads are converting and you're calling 100 leads, that means the first 98 potentially are going to be unqualified or not qualified enough because the salesperson didn't take the time to do it properly, because the first 10 they called, they didn't get anywhere. And so they treat the next 10 the same way. And then it just starts to progress.
Lose momentum. Absolutely. And I think it's really beneficial for us to start by addressing that often as salespeople, it's buy or don't buy, right? AB, coin flip. Understanding, it's really important. And we do a lot of education around has multiple steps. I know Sherpa methodology talks about kind of where they're emotionally feeling, where they're emotionally in denial, or they're emotionally thinking, or they're emotionally planning. I'm talking about the actual activities or behaviors, which Roobrik is a phenomenal tool to use, because first is awareness, and then it's consideration, and then we evaluate alternatives, right? And one thing I think the senior living would benefit from in 2024, if I could just put a feather in 2024's hat, it's post-purchase behavior. How likely are they to refer to us? We should be building an entire bank of every conversion should be a new referral generator, right? So, but breaking that, so going back to the sales enablement, breaking those pieces of communication down into steps. Here is where they're just comparing, is senior living right for me, right? Is it time? So that's where Roobrik is like so beneficial. And then from there, then we want to feed them contextual information. Is it that it's time to give up the license? We have creative for that. Is it that we need to talk about low vision and safety? We have a creative for that. Is it about how to handle spouses who have memory loss and trying to maintain independence as the caregiver? We've got a piece for that. So it's really about segmenting your audience and delivering them contextual content that deepens their relationship with you, that makes them trust you. That's the goal in my mind of the sales process, is deepening trust, building that relationship. And I always say relationships are relationships are relationships in my sales training. So for example, if someone asked you to move in with them on your first date, that would be uncomfortable. And we wouldn't like how that felt, right? Hey, come move in. No, I just met you, right? The same is true what I say when we're asking for the sale, which we must ask for the sale, but when we're asking for the sale, we should be as confident as when you asked your wife to marry you. Were you pretty sure she was going to say yes?
I don't do anything until I'm 100% sure. And so I made sure I crossed my T's and dotted my I's before I asked that question.
Right. And so I always say to the ladies in the room, I'm like, listen, guys don't go out and spend thousands of dollars on jewelry that they can't wear unless they're pretty confident they're going to get a yes, right? The same is true for our sale. We should have a relationship that's deep enough and committed enough that it's the natural next step. And I think that goes back to home visits. That goes back to not just dialing for dollars, but looking at your sales notes and saying, what does this person need from me? How can I be of service to them? How can I support them? I think that's where you take sales from transactional truly to relationship based.
Yeah, that comes back to something that we talk a lot about, which is trust. Trust is kind of the backbone of that. And trust is very difficult to build. It starts building before that first interaction ever occurs with the salesperson. But it only takes one misstep to destroy it. And that can come from the salesperson, or it can come from a mistimed marketing email or a misaimed marketing email. And so I think a huge opportunity shifting kind of off the salesperson, because I think salespeople kind of
they're killing it. They're killing it. It's a hard job. And no, 100%. Our job is to make their jobs easier because their jobs are hard.
Well, salespeople for us, we're really easy to pick on. We're the front lines most of the time. It's really easy to pick on us, and so I'm actually gonna pull off the salesperson and say, well, and I think the opportunity really for marketing is how do you, because you talked about the creative, I think is how you referred to it, the creative for all these different life events or these issues that a family member or a potential resident could be going through. If they're not even thinking about potentially giving up the license, and then you hit them with a give up the license, guess who just destroyed trust, and you may not have ever even realized it.
Right. Or if the adult daughter raised her hand about the license and the message somehow goes to the senior, absolutely. Trust can be broken in a split second. And I think I appreciate that we're shifting from the sales team to the marketing team, because that's kind of where we sit. But I think that, to your point, making sure that you've really understood who this person is, catalog that correctly, that's where the segmentation comes in. So as I said, we were speaking with Align yesterday, and we were talking about all the great marketing automation opportunities under the premise that we have the right fields in the right places. So for example, veterans, you were talking about ways to pay, right? That's one of the go-tos that I have, that I'm like, have you shared with them about veterans aid and attendance? We have a marketing material for that. And so just being able to hit them with those things quickly and easily. Also, I go back to, when it comes to breaking down trust, if I'm listening to Spotify and I want to be listening to classical music, and all of a sudden some classic rock pops in, I'm startled. Right. I'm not in a line. All of a sudden you've broken, like, I thought we were on the same page. And so I think that it's really beneficial for us to be listening to what they're sharing with us, and only delivering, not going out of our way to blast everyone, but delivering segmented pieces as it's appropriate to facilitate the journey.
Yeah. And that becomes easier when it's in the sales process, when there's communication, because now you're able to gather more of that data. Where I've been talking with a lot of operators over the past several months is, well, what about all the people that are pre-sales funnel?
I'm glad you brought that up, because the dark funnel we refer to the dark funnel. There's a blog on our website about it, but the dark funnel is going back to that buying journey, that awareness and consideration. That's where they're checking out your Facebook. They're reading every single review. They're going through your caring.com feedback, right? They're doing their due diligence on the back end without interacting with you. Now, they may do that before they fill out the form. They may do that after they fill out the form. But at the end of the day, they're going to do that homework. So we spend a lot of time talking to our clients about, what have you done for reputation management? And I don't want to say that there's anything we can do when it comes to, if there's a negative review, the old-fashioned approach of take it down, it doesn't work that way anymore, for one, with the algorithm. And for two, I try to remind clients, this is an opportunity for you to showcase your customer service. Address it. Take accountability. We are looking into this. Reach out to this person. Offer a direct phone number. There are things that you can do to support that dark funnel search in a way that still positions your community well, no matter kind of what's out there.
Yeah, we refer to them a little different. We call them the hidden audience. I'm perfect example of it. I'm in sales, so obviously, and I will avoid talking to a salesperson for as long as possible, and usually to my detriment. So I tend to live in that world of like, how do I just gather up as much information as possible prior to ever even identifying myself? I'm only going to identify myself when I maybe need the final 2 or 3 questions answered. I'm the easiest sale possible when you get me when I'm ready to talk to them. But if you get me too early, guess who's? I'm probably going to be your worst prospect. I'm going to be the one you give up on the fastest, but I'm probably also going to have the shortest sales cycle. So there's this disconnect in the way that I think more and more of our audience is shifting to make decisions that way. Younger, they're getting more tech savvy. They're used to going online and figuring everything out on their own, which could be good or could not be good. And so it's really good for really easy decisions like commodities. Second, you throw in a decision like senior living, and it's not great, but you need to adapt to the way people want to make the decisions and arm them with the information they need. Make pricing starting at rates available. Make sure that reputation management is taken care of. Give them the resources that they can engage with, interact with, learn more about, and make sure that you're in control of the messaging and the possible outcomes that they can get. Because if you're not, they're going to go somewhere else. And I promise you, I know where they're going to go. They're all going to end up there by accident because nobody ever looks.
They can't get pricing. I share this story all the time. When I was talk about a short sales cycle, I actually took my aunt and my mom and my uncle, and I was like, we're touring 3 places today. This is how fast it's going to go. I've already got all the materials. It's sitting there ready for you. Here's the coffee. Let's go. Right. Because I knew where we were going and I knew what we needed to do. But I will tell you that to schedule those tours, 2 of them, I had to go through a service because I couldn't get the rates any other way. So we have been huge proponents of encouraging our clients, at least a starting at rate at minimum. Build the value in right up front. Be clear about that. But be transparent with your pricing, because at the end of the day, they're either going to pay it or they're not. If it is truly cost prohibitive for that individual, let them self-select, right? But make sure that you're offering context around the value and continuing that conversation.
And this is where we decided to really lean into the can I afford senior living assessment, which is there is a lot of color that needs to go behind what does that starting rate actually entail? What does it mean? What is it? Yeah, it looks like you might be used to paying $2,300 a month for your mortgage, and now all of a sudden you're going to look at this community that's $5,000, and they don't have the context yet on, okay, but what are all the utilities that you're no longer going to pay? What about
comparison tools?
What if all of that type of stuff? And it's really difficult. And I understand why some providers don't want to put starting at rates up because of that concern. And so people might self-select out even when they probably didn't need to. And that's why we're releasing the affordability tool. And we're not even going to get into, you're not going to see any hard numbers in our assessment. It's all kind of light questions that indicate likelihood of being able to afford without showing starting at rates, because we know we can show it if we want to. But it's helping frame them up and tee them up on how, when you see that starting at rate, if you haven't yet, How do you interpret that? How do you have the background and the framing for how to digest that larger number than you may have expected? And you are more likely to move forward, even if that number could be perceived as out of your price range.
Framing everything.
And that's what we're trying to do, which is how do we take those consumers who were not going to reach out to get the pricing, but still want more information and frame it up.
There's a phenomenal book you've got to check out. It's by Melina Palmer, and it's called What Your Customer Wants to Tell You But Can't. Such a phenomenal. She talks a lot about framing, a lot about primacy. How do we introduce the idea? And I think it's helpful for us all as an industry to introduce the idea that, yes, this is more expensive sometimes than living at home. But have you considered how much you spend on this, 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 and this? Right? It starts to really knock it down quickly. And again, reinforcing those communities who do have a phenomenal programming and enrichment side, reinforcing not just the community value itself, but the value of going off-site and going on activities and things that you just currently aren't doing at home. I think there's a lot of value to that as well.
Yeah.
And I think resident ambassadors are the biggest game changer when it comes to marketing, if you want my honest opinion. The peer-to-peer testimonial, whether that's an adult daughter meeting with your prospect and having lunch and saying, listen, I made this decision. I know it's hard. It was worth it. There's nothing we as salespeople can say that's more beneficial than that.
Yeah.
So soliciting those peer reviews, asking for those as much as possible, I think has been a game changer.
Yeah, I think anything you can do to get somebody that's not you, the salesperson, talking about how great what you sell is. Anytime I get a client that's willing to go say something positive, I jump at the opportunity, because quite frankly, if I could put my client on the demo, I would, because they're going to trust them over me any day of the week, mainly because it has nothing to do with, hopefully it has nothing to do with me person, it has everything to do with what my title is, which has sales in the name.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as soon as second you see sales, you're like, there's automatically this dynamic that's been shifted, which is now you're in this buyer-seller relationship, and that's a weird relationship.
It is.
And you got to navigate through it, because it's hard. You've got to, and it comes back to trust.
It does.
You need the buyer to understand that you are not in it to just make a sale. So which means you probably need to talk about some competitive options, being as equally reasonable as going with me as well. And the second you're able to do that, that's going to build a lot of trust. And so you need to be okay with whatever decision the buyer makes. And that automatically starts all the way back from the beginning before they ever even talk to you.
Yeah, that detachment from outcome and genuinely just living the mission of I'm here to do what's right for you. If that's going with me, great. If that's going elsewhere, that's great too. I just want you to be successful. And that's huge. It's hard. It's hard. And it's a big part, but it's a big part of our business model as well. So I feel you. And I like that I get to be a cheerleader for Roobrik, because it's usually at my recommendation. We'll build it right into the budget. This is something that I know your sales team will benefit from. This is something that I know as a marketer, I can use this data very much. And the price point is more than reasonable to build that into our scope. So I think you're right. It does help to have someone who's not the salesperson going, you really need this. This is something that will help you. And whether that's a peer or whether that's a separate consultant, I think that there's benefit there for sure.
Yeah.
It's been such a pleasure to work with Roobrik. I think we've been involved with Roobrik since its onset, really, with our Your Life communities down in Florida. Yeah. And we've been huge fans, and we're getting ready to release a case study. I will send a copy in advance to you about Friend's House and how well they've done with Roobrik this year.
Cool. Yeah, can't wait to see it. I've seen it from our end. Can't wait to see it from your perspective.
Yes, we're really excited. So we'll be sharing that over as well. And I can link to that in the podcast too. So is there anything new and exciting that you guys have coming up that you want to share with us?
I will in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
All right. So we will schedule a follow-up for February and see how things are going.
Yeah, I was joking with you earlier. I had to make sure what I announced that was coming, I timed properly so that my marketing person didn't yell at me.
Oh, I get it. I do.
But there are quite a few new product developments on the roadmap that I think the industry is really going to like. We really prioritize listening to client feedback, and not just the individual that bought us at the operator, but also the ones that use us. So, and when I say the ones that use us are going to be the salespeople. And so I think it all comes back to sales. Sales get a lot of leads. Not all of them are qualified financially. Not all of them are qualified from a healthcare perspective. And so the problem that we're really trying to lean in and make sure that we're able to do more effectively for them is help them understand not all of it, like coming back to my point of it, not all of your leads are created equal. How do we show you which leads are most likely to be the next move in prior to you ever even picking up the phone and talking based on the data that we're gathering? And then feeding all of that into the systems, the CRMs, the marketing automation platforms, so that the marketing teams can then use that data to tailor the resources to make sure that they're continuing to support that decision for the consumer. And so that's kind of where we're going. And so there are several products that we're looking at to help support that and get more information back over to the sales teams that I am willing to, I'll be able to talk more about in the next few weeks. But
perfect. I am super excited that you guys are going to continue to equip us. We appreciate it so much. Yeah, and your commitment to the industry is unparalleled. So thank you so much, Evan, for your time today. And we will reconvene when we have some new product roadmaps to talk about.
All right. Sounds good. Looking forward to it.
Happy New Year.
All right. You too.
Bye-bye.